So I was talking to a friend today, and I was telling him we're doing this podcast, and he was like, "Oh, you guys are launching a podcast." I was like, "Well, not quite. It was just like a one-off project, but who knows? After tonight,
I know.
maybe."
But I did tell Gabriel the content of Camila and Gabriel together will be fire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
He saw my story. I made a little joke because I post Camila every now and then. I got to get the engagement and the algorithm clicking, and every time I post her, it goes crazy. So I was like, I made a little funny post.
You know what one of my secrets is? I post Talitta every day.
Hey.
So you should start doing that.
So I gotta increase the frequency.
Every single day.
I don't do it enough, but when I do it, it's like an explosion. So I posted some like funny meme of like when I post about my passion in business, I get like 14 likes, and when I post about Camila, I get all this. And he was like, "Bro, you gotta do content with her." And so we had talked and planned about doing a podcast on marriage. So today is middle of March, so we've been married for about 5 months or so, since September 30th.
Wow, it hasn't been that long.
Still very new.
How do you guys feel?
We've been together for 6 years, but married for 5.
But that's a big difference.
Do you feel the difference after getting married?
100%.
Yeah, we'll probably dive into that, but I would say our relationship significantly transformed when we got married.
Yeah.
Also, we did it very traditionally. We didn't live together. We tried our best to stay abstinent before marriage.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Wait, no. I think we should start here. I really do think we should start here.
Yeah.
Because that's very rare today.
That's something we're very passionate
You guys
about.
are very rare people. Well, and we like it.
So let's go into. We could start here. Actually, I have other ideas and topics of what I want to ask you guys, but we'll start here. So this was from a sermon from Michael Todd that I heard. It was inspired by another pastor, Miles Monroe, who broke down what God gave Adam in the Garden of Eden before he gave him Eve. And so it was 5 prerequisites, and I actually think he missed one, so I added another one. But it was number 1, he gave him an identity. He knew he was the image of God. Number 2, he gave him a place. He knew his place in the Garden of Eden. Number 3, he gave him a purpose. Number 4, he gave him parameters. And number 5, he gave him provisions.
Wow.
And then Eve came. But I actually added another one, which is he also experienced sacrifice because Eve came from his rib.
Yeah.
So that represents that every man's journey before being ready to be married, they have to know their identity.
Yeah.
They have to know their place. They have to know their purpose. They have to have provisions, resources. Finances.
Yeah,
they gotta have a job or a business.
Especially if you marry someone like Talitta.
And Camila.
Yeah.
And
These South American women, man, they're expensive.
actually beautiful.
I know, right? If you want a beautiful girl, get ready, make some money.
And so we took that very seriously. I didn't. So we were together for 6 years. We were engaged for 2.5 years, long time. However, I told her after 4 days of hanging out, I was going to marry her.
Wow.
We kissed. 4 days into hanging out, I had a supernatural experience. I've never had this. It sounds like a Disney movie, but it was real.
You can tell.
It was like this, like, whoa.
Same thing I felt with Talitta.
Butterflies, and we literally stopped kissing, and I was like freaked out because like my stomach was like, it was exploding. I was like, what's happening? I've never felt this.
Do I need to go to the restroom?
And then she's holding me, and she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't want to share because you don't want to sound like that needy guy 4 days later.
Yeah, I know.
I was always like playing
like
it
in love
cool.
with you.
And so then I was like, I don't want to share. She's like, no, you could share. And she was just very delicate and like, sweet and safe. And she was like, yeah, you could share. And I just felt like, all right, I guess I should go.
You just know.
And I said, this sounds crazy, but I'm going to marry you one day.
Yeah.
And she said, okay. And then I said, how does Maria Camila Pinto sound? And she said, I like.
Okay.
She barely knew English.
I like. She didn't say I like it. I like.
And ever since then, man, we had 3 really powerful we had a really powerful conversation. We touched on 3 things that night. Number 1, God comes before our marriage. In order for us to grow closer together, we both have to grow close with God. That's where we meet each other in a higher place.
Beautiful.
Number 2 is what you said. God's purpose for my life comes before us.
Yeah.
And number 3, I've struggled with sexual immorality and sexual dependency in my past. Previous sexual partners, chasing girls, all of that's lust, things like that.
Okay.
Right.
That was the first conversation that we had.
Wow.
And that set the foundation for our whole entire relationship from there. So we knew from that day we were going to get married. However, I didn't have my 6 prerequisites. So until I knew that I had those prerequisites, I refused to get married.
Yeah.
So although I knew, I didn't deserve her until I knew and I was living in my purpose. I didn't deserve her or earn her until I had my place, my identity, my provisions to be able to provide. Because the last thing I wanted to do was have her in a marriage and not be able to provide all of those things. And so I waited until that moment. And all the way up to, I mean, there's a lot of other stories that we could go into, but that's kind of the initial story.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a very different structure than from us Latinas, right?
Oh, 100%. I think if I was to tell, some of my friends are like, what?
What are you?
It's just like very different.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful for sure.
And a lot of people in our generation, this is one thing that I'm really passionate about talking about is they're codependent.
Yeah.
And so there's a difference between our spirit's compatibility and our flesh's compatibility. A lot of people think like, well, we're in this relationship, I'm very compatible. But it's like, yeah, but the question is, are you compatible in feeding each other's insecurities? Or are you compatible in actually your soul? And so a lot of people that build their codependent relationships, they need each other. And we wanted to make a point because largely inspired by my mom, when my parents got divorced, I saw how it wrecked.
How old were you when your parents got divorced?
9.
9.
And I saw how it wrecked my mom because she was so financially dependent on my dad. And so I wanted a woman in a relationship dynamic where we weren't in a marriage or a relationship because we needed each other, but because we wanted to express our love for each other.
So do you think, this is interesting. Do you mind if I question you?
Go for it.
Do you think a woman should be independent, financially independent, and not depend on the husband, based on your experience and your mom's experience?
I don't think they need to. I maybe even emphasized on it more than because of that. Maybe it was coming more from fear and pain. I do think that the man needs to be financially whole and secure.
Yeah.
I don't think the woman needs to be financially whole and secure. I mean, even biblically and traditionally with the Latin community, like that's totally normal for them to live with their family until they get married, and then the man needs to provide. Takes over, so I don't see that's a problem. The man for sure should.
I know, definitely.
I will actually say I agree and disagree.
Yeah.
To me, in the marriage, yes, you come and you're able to submit, and the man should be able to take over financially.
Yeah.
But what it was to me is I became financially independent before getting married with Gabe, and it really made a huge difference. I would say because I was able to prove myself that I was okay. I didn't want to prove myself so I can be rebellious and be like, if you ever were to leave me, then I got myself.
Exactly.
That's not really what I developed.
It wasn't coming from that point.
Exactly. It wasn't coming from that place. I think if you as a woman are trying to come from that place before getting married, that can cause a lot of things in your marriage. For me, it was more like God knew that I wanted it to reach some independence to be able to prove myself that I was able to do it without, not necessarily without Gabe, but more so of like, oh, I can provide for myself. I was living by myself before getting married. I was able to provide for my apartment. I was able to provide for everything, all of my bills, etc. So I think for me it was more like, I want to be able to prove myself that I can do this because I know that if something, obviously you're not hoping something happens, but I was like, if something, I don't feel like I'm marrying Gabe because I need to like,
financial support.
Yes, I didn't feel that. And I think when you take the financial support out of the equation, you really go in a more like a spirit connection. It's like you're not depending on him to be the financial support. You're not depending for him to give you the emotional support. Like I think I was telling somebody the other day, asked me, they were like, how's been marriage for you? Which you asked me just a minute ago. And I say, it's been so great because I came into the marriage and I submitted in a way that I never did in my relationship.
Wow.
So like, I feel like all my walls just came down.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you got us, you lead this whole thing. When I was in a relationship, I was still like single, like no single to go out for other men, but like
But
singleness.
yeah, that single mindset.
And I was like, the more I can get myself whole in this singleness, I'm gonna be able to come into my marriage with a completely different mindset. So for me, like, when I knew like, okay, I got myself, I can do this, I can do that. I don't necessarily need Gabe. I chose to be with him and do this one thing, but no, because I need him. Because obviously it happens a lot, especially in our culture. It's like, well, I need to get married so I can leave my home, so I can put the income together so we can do something. Yeah. That was never the case.
More for lack reasons.
Exactly. So I don't think I came into the marriage with like lack of finances.
Exactly.
So then we can lack of emotional support. I was able to provide a lot of that for myself, obviously with a relationship with God, where I don't feel like I was necessarily relying on Gabe. So
It was tough. We were living literally walking distance, half a mile away from each other.
When you guys met?
No, before we got married.
Okay.
And so we
Oh,
were,
you were so close.
You guys were close.
we were walking distance basically,
Wow.
paying like a very high combined rental expense.
I know, right?
And we had that, or I had that moment with God probably 4 to 6 months before our wedding. I was like,
Should we just pay one
should
rent?
we just pay one rent?
I know,
live
it makes
together?
sense.
What is going on?
All the logical sense. And
That's
I
what
felt-
most people will do.
And I felt God literally convicting me of like, you've made it this far. Stay
I know,
independent
dude. 6 more
until
months.
because then the
the
temptations
rent.
come, and you start building those habits and patterns together as like sex outside of marriage, which we were big on. As far as we weren't perfect with it by any means, but we did get to a point towards our wedding night that it was like, yeah, we definitely made progress on that. So
That's awesome.
it's very hard to do that nowadays. Of like we justify it. Well, we could live under one roof, one bill. We can have sex whenever we want. But it's like sex, for example, similar to sex is a benefit that comes with marriage.
Yeah.
And if most men, they don't have those 6 prerequisites. And so it's like you have to have those 6 prerequisites in order to earn sex. And that's another challenge in our generation as far as women not valuing sex.
No, not at all.
To the point where they should, because they should be like, what was it? I saw something, it was like the best safe sex you could have is with a ring or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, like putting something on it. But I think women devalue that as much as more than they should today, of like, hey, you got to earn that.
Of course.
There's
They
so
don't know
many
the
good
value.
things.
Before we keep moving on with this conversation, I need you guys to know something. You have no idea how special you guys are to us. Because we ask God every day for these kind of friendships. We do, don't we?
We sure do.
We talk in the gym like, you know what? We almost have no friends here in Atlanta.
Very few.
I promise you, we have no friends here in Atlanta. And we will, so have you followed us on Instagram for a long time or not really, right?
No.
So
I knew of you because of Gabe.
yeah, I will post on Instagram. It's like, if
jokes.
there is a couple out there in Atlanta
That's the right
that
principles.
likes taking care of themselves, that has the right principles, that is into personal development, that likes working out, that have the same mindset that we have, please come be our friends. I will joke like that.
Yeah, we would
Because
joke
it's hard to find people like you guys. Do you understand that?
Oh, thank you for
It's
saying that.
hard to find people like us. We're
Exactly.
rare.
Very
No,
rare.
thank you. And I do want to
I
say,
really meant it. You guys are rare people.
thank you.
You know what I'm saying? So listening to you guys and just experiencing what we experienced the other night, and now that we start building this relationship, I'm very grateful and I'm very happy to keep building this relationship with you guys, because this is the kind of friends that we need to keep growing. Yeah.
And there's so much power in what you guys just said. So much power. I mean, I think that we could spend hours and hours just on that part of the story. Because society today, like I was telling you guys before we got started, there's so much dysfunction. There's so many people lost. There's so many men and women don't know their role in their lives. They don't know any perimeters. Men don't know what they need to do in order to have a wife, or when is the right moment to ask somebody to be my wife, or why would it be my wife if she already lives with me? And all of this craziness that goes out there on the outside world completely completely different from the story you guys just shared, both of you. And I think it's amazing, Camila's perspective, where she comes complete into the relationship. She comes, okay, I can handle myself. I'm a big girl. I know what I like. I'm aligned with the things, that makes me happy. And I meet this wonderful guy who he's aligned with the things and he knows the structure and perimeter of what it is to be a man. And he's willing not to just sweep me on my feet and take me home with him. And, he's respecting, he's giving me boundaries. For us, it's like, what is this? Boundaries? Like, I'm not going to go home with you? Like, what is, in Latin culture, like,
especially in Brazil and Colombia.
Not to go to sleep, but not to go to sleep with a guy, but go beyond just, hanging outside, And you guys, you've done it all in a structured way. And society has completely lost track of that. As you know what, people watching this, they're probably gonna be like, these people are aliens. Like, this is nonsense. What do you mean, like, having a backbone? What do you mean being financially independent? When do you know how to make a decision? Okay, should I already marry her? You said God gave you that feeling like it was the time, because should we pay 2 rents? I mean, we're really close to each other.
Yeah, you should pay 2 rents. Pay 3.
But some people still haven't made that decision, and they've been together for like 6, 7 years, 8 years,
10
engaged
years.
in 10. We've known somebody who just got married.
We work with a lot of relationships, yeah.
Just got married after 10 years.
Our goal is to marry at least 3 or 4 couples every month. We marry people. Get married.
But we talk about how valuable that is.
So after people come into our environment, our community, they've been together for 10, 12 years, and after listening to us, they finally get married. Because we believe getting married will take you to a whole nother level.
100%. And that's why I do what I do with women. I'm like, if you only understood there is a difference in just being somebody's partner and living with them than being their wife. That's why I asked her, I was like, how do you feel? I mean, 5 months, just really sign the paper. It's not about the paper. It's about all that
the
comes
commitment to
with
God,
it.
the spiritually union. And you guys are the first people that make us speak in English. We've never done this before. First time we're actually speaking in English in the podcast.
Can't wait for everybody to hear it. So I appreciated your words, and thank you also, Talitta. But I wanted to say, Camila's very reserved with being impressed by people in general. I'm always like the one that's like, oh, I really like this beer. And she's like,
me too.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Yeah. And then,
it's just.
but I'll tell you, I wonder if you know, but I'll tell you when she fell in love with you guys, and she knows what I'm talking about. She's already shared this with her family and friends. We were at the restaurant after the event last week. For those that don't know, so we did a purpose formula event last week.
Amazing.
This purpose formula I've been refining for years, and Danielle was one of the speakers, phenomenal, crushed it, and then we went to dinner after. And so right after, it's the meeting after the meeting, which we talked about. We're on fire, we're talking, we're like, excited about the future. And I go into the booth at this restaurant. There's about 6 people.
Yeah.
And I sit next to Daniel. And then we're on fire, talking. Camila comes after. Talitta's at the end. And then right before we start getting really into it, he pauses me. He's like, hey, wait, let's let the ladies in. So we get out of the booth and let them in to make them way more inclusive into the conversation. And she really appreciated that. I'll let her share why, and then I want to hear why you did it. But
okay.
It's so funny great. Because I don't know, just like women are just. I was telling Kayla, the girl you guys saw at the gym, actually last weekend, and then she goes like. Right as they say that, she goes like, oh, he did that. I'm like, yes, he did that. I think for me, what's like, I was telling Gabe, I'm like, it was great to see it because I personally really, and I think all women do, like you really get to appreciate like men that get to be manly from from necessarily in a healthy place, but como un caballero, if that makes sense. So
say that again?
Chivalrous?
Yes.
I'm not even gonna try saying that word.
I'm not even gonna try it.
I think he's American, which is it.
But just look up caballero.
And I was telling Gabe, I'm like, it was beautiful to see that because like, I think it's like, it's one of those things that for women, like, I get into that a lot with Gabe. I'm like, babe, it doesn't really matter for how many years we've been married. For like, I want you to continue to step into that because it's really like,
attractive.
It's one of those things that it's like, you really get to appreciate like obviously for your husband, if your husband does it, it's very attractive. But if another man does it, you're like, please, like that's amazing, and continue to do that. So yeah, I call my mom the next day. I'm like, mommy, because I get on him about these little things.
Yeah.
Like sometimes he like opens the door.
Essentially, you
And
make
he,
me
like-
like that.
And he goes first, and I'm like, babe, hello. You open the door, you wait for me to go, and then you close the door.
This guy, we have a Tesla, and the doors is automatic. He just presses a button, and he still comes around to the
press the button.
to press the button.
That's
Sweet.
awesome.
Well, he
Yeah.
also just before you respond, he also just added something. I think when you were in the restroom, but he was like, he mentioned again. He was like, yeah, the men always have to be on the outside because we have to protect our women.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting because I thought you were, and you probably were, but I thought you were going more the angle to include them in the conversation.
No,
which was beautiful.
yeah.
He was looking at it more from like we have to. So go into that. Go into
Yeah,
that.
dude, there's so much to go into.
I know.
Just go into that, men need it.
I know, but I take life very seriously. What do I mean by that? For me, every detail counts.
I can see that.
Every detail counts. For me, every calorie in my diet counts. For me, every single word in that book I'm reading counts. For me, every step of the 15,000 steps I walk every single day counts. Every rep counts. Every time I hold my wife's hands counts. Every kiss I give her. Every single word of affirmation. Every second, every minute of my life counts. And because people don't live life with that intentionality, they don't have a successful life.
It's a level of excellence.
Wow, I'm very impressed on my English. Dude, I promise you, I've never done this before. This is my first time speaking English. Like, I barely speak English. So when it comes to the dynamics of a marriage, for me, it's the most important thing. Because men has to understand that my most important asset outside of my dream, outside of my vision, my purpose, outside of my dreams, what I'm working for in life, my most important asset is my wife.
Yeah.
It's not my properties, it's not my real estate, it's not my Bitcoin that is going up, it's not my Ethereum, it's not my stocks, it's not my business, it's not my social media, it's my wife. She's the one that constructs me, that makes me, that feeds me the confidence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A man will do anything when a man is in love. But that enamoramiento, that loving, that fire in a relationship has to be built every single day. Every single day. But it's built in those daily details. Does that make sense?
So go into detail of why you did that.
So for example, in that specific night, I always, as a man, the woman always have to be the center of attention. For many reasons, personal and business. Does that make sense? I'm like, yeah, remember, I take life very seriously.
No, yes.
So every dinner counts. Every meeting after the meeting counts.
Let me just cut you off because I
Yeah.
complimented you with Camila, and I said it was so refreshing doing this project of having Daniel come speak with me last week, because we both come from network marketing.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between just having a little stint and experience and actually building real organizations. I think we both had over hundreds or a couple thousand people in our organization. So it's very similar to a professional basketball player. He may not be the one that could twist and twirl and do all these tricks. He's the one that just mastered the basics of dribble, pass, shoot.
That's it.
And I was like, it was so refreshing working with you because I'm like, Daniel's a professional. I talked to Kyle after because he was also in that room. I was like, he's a professional. Right when he gets up, he gets the energy of the crowd. He compliments and edifies me.
Yeah.
He gets them to. So I'm like, I love it, but it's the little details.
It's
to that
the
point.
little details.
Yeah, you're on it in every area of your
Yeah.
life because how we do one thing is how we do everything, obviously.
There
So
you
it's
go.
like, man,
how you do
you're
everything
on
is how you
it.
do everything. That's one of our main philosophies in life. So when it comes to the dynamics in a marriage, you can tell a lot of a man's success by how he treats his wife and the place that he gives his wife in public. You can tell so much about a man's mentality, mindset, mental strength, mental toughness, about his influence in society, about the quality of a man that he is by the way he treats his wife. You can tell a lot about a quality of a man by his wife's looks. You can tell a lot about the quality of a man by his wife's happiness, by his wife's joy, by his wife's femininity. So Talitta is my most important asset. I choose if I'm gonna have business or if I'm gonna have a business relationship with a man based on his wife and his relationship with his wife.
Baby, this is recorded.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna do business with you if you don't treat your wife. I'm just kidding.
Point two, how a wife treats and respects and honors their man.
Yeah, but remember, it starts with the man.
For sure.
So the man wants recognition and respect.
Yes.
The woman wants love and attention. That's marriage dynamics 101. Woman needs love and attention. Man needs respect and admiration.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
For sure.
Now, the man is expecting to get attention and recognition and admiration, but the woman is expecting to get that love and that attention. So maybe the man is thinking, until she gives me the admiration and respect that I deserve, I'm not giving her love.
Can I expand on this?
Yeah.
So Talitta, so after dinner, I shared the next morning at my Bible study with all the guys in my Bible study about what we talked about, which was so powerful. You said, I asked you, because you were talking about how feminism is not competing with men and masculinity, but it's them falling into their feminine essence and empowering their man into their purpose and all of that stuff. And I asked you, I said, how were you able to honor Daniel's masculinity and being the alpha and the leader when he wasn't seeing the success that he's seeing today? Oof. And which one came first, you falling into your feminine divine essence or him stepping into his masculinity? And you said the best answer. You said basically, essentially, he was always the alpha and the masculine leader, regardless of the outside results or circumstances or fruits.
Yeah, circumstances.
And the reason that you could honor his masculinity was because whatever he said he was going to do, he did. I love that. That penetrated with our soul, because like I know that connected with her too, because I don't want to push myself up, but like I know she felt that same thing, because I'm similar. Like everything that I've said I was going to do,
we do it.
We do it.
Yeah.
90 days, 5 a.m., cold plunge, and she lives with me, so she sees. She'll tell you, I wake up at 4:50. I'm in the cold plunge.
When he's in this extreme side, I'm like, babe, for me, he's like, Camila, no.
Beautiful.
Go into that, because I think that's super inspiring. Of like, y'all didn't have the success you have today, but it seems like you always honored him in his masculinity, even though the success wasn't there. So what about people listening that they have potential, they have power, that just results aren't showing? And it's hard for women, instead of to start kind of condemning them and being like, man, get your stuff together, get a job, and start beating down their masculinity. Yeah. I mean, talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, Talitta definitely married me for money.
I was not going to marry down. And I don't think any woman should. No.
She knew one day he's going to be a millionaire, so I better marry him right now. I got to buy low.
Same. I'm like,
they knew. They
got a woman with vision.
Yeah. The depth of vision.
You know, I think that my mentor one day said on one of the calls that we had, she said, all men is the same. What makes a relationship or a successful man is the woman that's next to him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's now being able to see that is very, very true, because in our relationship in the beginning, we were both go-getters. Like you guys, you know, Camila, when I met Daniel, I was also working full-time, making good money. I didn't need him to buy me anything.
She was making the good money, not me.
Well, I don't want to say that. But we came into the relationship very, neutral, but we both were go-getters. So in the beginning, we were both Michael Jordans on the team. You know, we were both, let's go out there, together, we're going to conquer the world. And me using a lot of my masculine energy. So I can talk from experience because I've lived being, you know, on that side where I was providing and I felt good providing for me, for him, for everybody. You know, I was fine working hard, making money. I felt empowered to be able to do that. But then I learned that that's not why God put us here. And I'm going to get into the answer. And I understood that there was a whole different level of information that society was hiding from me. And that I learned through certain books in a book club with my mentor that there's a side of women that a lot of women don't know, and it's that feminine side. And it has nothing to do with the feminism movement where empowerment, boss bitch, boss whatever, like go, you know, woman independent, we can do the same thing as men. None of that. But I was at the moment when we started in a relationship like that kind of woman, you know, independent, can do whatever. So when I started to learn this process of, okay.
So you're saying it's important for a woman to connect to another woman that has more wisdom and more experience.
Woman, books, mentorship, there's always room to grow in different areas of your life. Yeah. So when I started to let go in the end days of my life, I don't want to be hustling. I don't want to be working hard. I don't want to be recognized for all the money I made. I want to have a good life. I want to enjoy the good things. I want to go to the nicest places. I want to travel the world and stay at the nicest luxurious hotels. I like good things. So that's why Daniel said I'm a little expensive. Yeah. I am. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. You can't have two Michael Jordans in one team. So you gotta let somebody be the star and somebody else has to have the back end. So why do I give this background? Because I feel like there's a lot of relationships that are not functional. And so even if I just give you a straight up answer, they will think, okay, well, my relationship is not like yours, so it's not gonna, you know, I can't apply that. No, you can totally apply it if you let go. If you let go of that masculine energy and let your man lead and start feeding his ego instead of destroying his ego, he's gonna start following through with his words. He's gonna feel empowered to do the things that he needs to do. He's gonna feel masculine because a man is not so much sentimental. A man essence is get it done, get the job done, do what I gotta do. This is, you know, go out there and hunt, like back in the days. It's not all about the feelings and things like that. So when I let go of my masculine energy and stepped into my feminine energy and it started feeding his ego and seeing how he was actually always, the whole time, he was always following through with the things he said he was gonna do. Stopping to realize it, he was waking up at 6 a.m. reading books. I would open my eyes in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is reading a book right now. I'm like 6 a.m. I can't even open my eyes. And every morning after morning, he was there reading the books. And then he was, you know, doing the events, doing the prospecting calls, we were in our marketing industry. So there was like a bunch of skill sets you needed to develop. Yeah. We would leave the house at 8 a.m. and he wouldn't get back until like he was done doing the things he had to do. So I started to pay attention to, okay, he was doing what he said. I was just too much in my feelings, trying to be all boss babe, you know, go get her. So that to answer that sometimes the men in your life, sometimes men is already doing the things that they're supposed to do. You're just not realizing it because the woman is also into their feelings, all into the things that they don't have, all of the negative energy where you focus on at expense. So not focusing on what their man is doing right, they're focusing on what the man is not doing.
So good.
And so they're speaking, instead of speaking life into the man's life, they're speaking obviously the opposite.
The takeaways I get from that is as men, we're called to give love and attention, like you said. And for women, one of the biggest hacks for their man to really get promoted to the next level is build up their confidence and build up and be the number one person that's giving them the affirmation, giving them the validation, giving them the recognition, complimenting them constantly and building them up. Because if we have that from the source of in our home, I mean, that's more powerful than anything.
And one thing I wanted to add to that, I think a lot of us as women, we want powerful men in our lives, but we're not willing to support that.
Yeah.
And I say that because like Gabe and I, for example, like it's been like busy. There's been a lot going on even after the wedding. Like we haven't even gone to a honeymoon yet. And every time I call my mom or my grandma, it's like 9 or 9:30, and they're like, "Where is Gabe?" And I'm like, "Well, Gabe is at the office." And I was telling her, I was thinking about it when you were talking, because I think it's another thing I think we do wrong as women is, yes, we want those powerful men in our lives, but at the same time, we're asking for too much in return.
Definitely.
And what I mean by that, it's like Gabe knows. Like, he told me when we started just this year, he's like, "Hey, babe, I need to start working on Saturdays. Like, I need to do sessions on Saturdays, da 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 da." And I go, "Babe, go for it." So like on Saturdays, I'm gonna figure out what else to do, which I always have stuff to do at home, other things. But then I think about it, and same, when he's here at the office, he can be here until 10 p.m., 11 p.m. I'd rather come, if I do wanna be with him, I'd rather come here and sit with him until 10 or 11 than calling him and be like, "Babe, but when are you gonna be home? It's almost 10 p.m. And I think the reason why it's because I told him, I was like, since I met him, and since we started dating, I knew that I wanted a really powerful man in my life.
Beautiful.
So I'm willing to support that, because I have heard other women that may say like, I do want, but like, or when I have talked to other people, they're like, "Well, you got lucky because you got Gabe." And I go like, well, maybe I did get lucky, but what I want to say is like,
but he takes
but like what I want to say, it's like I'm willing to support that purpose. I have met women that maybe met the men, and then your neediness, which is not necessarily always coming from the healthiest place, takes over. So then you're like, "But I want to watch that show on Friday night," and it's okay to ask those things. But I think when the man is still building and the purpose is so big, you have to be willing to support that. So Gay knows I'm like, I'm willing to support that. I'd rather come and sit with him right here, see him work. I work in other things than me having him at home just because I want to cuddle that
Let me
night.
just add one thing to that too, because she's right. I mean, I'm here a lot. We got Friday morning Bible studies. We got the two events. We're working sessions, Saturdays, all these things.
We never stop working.
This is very important to why we had to go through that journey of building our independence pre-marriage. Man, this is important. Because I told her I wanted to change the world and have a huge impact on the world, so I knew the sacrifice it took. I'm not saying that you shouldn't give your women and your family attention and be there and watch movies and things like that. But we set those standards and boundaries.
they're priorities.
Of like, I have priorities that I'm going to be changing the world. There's going to be certain times where I can't always come home at 5:30 and do the dinner thing and do this thing. It's not going to be that. It's like I'm going to be traveling, going all over to different places, and so many people are preventing their greatness because they're using their relationship, their man's greatness, they're using their relationship to fill the inner holes and wounds and insecurities that they have because they're not okay with being alone.
Yeah.
She is totally comfortable with her presence alone and her time with God. I am totally okay being alone. And we had to get there first before we got married. Otherwise, our insecurities would have spilled over
100%.
in me saying, "Hey, I got to go speak at this conference in Chicago or whatever." And instead of her saying, "Go kill it, babe, like crush it," she may be like, "Well, what about like what we have to do and date night and different things?" And it's like, that's important. It is priority, but it's like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. Something that we always say, always. You already know what I'm gonna say? Man, we're so connected. I always tell people, Talitta doesn't make me happy. And I don't make Talitta happy. I'm not expecting my happiness from Talitta. I am a happy person. I'm a happy man. Talitta is a happy woman. And both of us as happy people, we come together and we have a happy marriage. But I'm not waiting for her or anybody to make me happy. And she's not waiting for me or anybody to make her happy. We're both complete, we're both happy, and that's why we have such a healthy and successful relationship. So it goes line to line.
And I would add to that, baby, that we have one vision in our home.
Yeah.
When there is couples out there that they have different visions in life and they don't have set the boundaries, they haven't set the standards, they haven't written down, okay, what are we as a relationship? What are we as a person? What am I as Talitta? What are you as Daniel? And what are we looking to achieve together in this relationship, in this union, because that's what really marriage is about. It's really not about signing the paper. That is the last final step and it makes the biggest difference, but that's just an act. The real job, the real important thing is, our role? Are we in one vision or do we have division at our home? Most people have division. A woman is following her career, her path, and she doesn't know what the man wants, but the man is following his career, his path, but they never thought, what can we create together? Because that's the purpose of an empire, of a home, that's how we started, right?
I was asking Talitta a few days ago, what makes me different? What I do, coaching, there's a lot of people doing it out there. And we have a lot of masterminding time during the day.
Oh, we sure do.
While we have a cup of coffee, we should
love
drink coffee. I recommend you drink coffee.
Yes.
Successful people drink coffee. While we have our cup of coffee in the morning, while we go to the gym, we go on walks. So I was asking her, what makes me different? And I was just thinking, I have great skills. I believe I can communicate in Spanish like nobody else can. I'm working on my English. But I really came to a conclusion that my unique selling proposition in the marketplace was Talitta. Was my relationship with my wife.
Yes, it's our relationship.
It's our relationship. You know how attractive it is, a beautiful relationship like we have?
Yeah.
It is true. I agree with you because I really like the point you made on Talitta because, for us as women, that's also like it's awesome to see that. Like I'm the tech gay knows. I'm very particular with like the people I like very.
It's hard for Camila to like you.
Like I would say like
So don't feel sorry.
Don't get excited.
It's hard for you to impress me, I would say. But I told Gabe, I'm like, I get so impressed by a man who's a good husband.
Yeah.
Like I really do. I'm like, if you can be a good husband and have your wife to be happy and just like
I'm like you father.
I will I'm like I will listen to you. Like sometimes Gabe show me some men. He's like, oh babe, but he's sharp. I'm like,
She's not impressed.
So
I'm
I
like,
follow.
babe, he's a player.
Exactly.
Sharp for what?
I know.
Could be making millions of dollars. She's like, I don't
that I follow that are in my same line of business. They don't have a wife. They don't have a relationship like I do. They don't have a family like I do. Yeah. So I came to the conclusion that that's what makes me different.
Totally.
And that's why I value it so much.
I do want to ask you one question, just because I like the transparency here. So Gay had an event 2 weeks ago. And it was funny because I really like also this thing you guys did, which was when we were sitting at the restaurant, I know it was getting a little late and the girls are waiting at home for you guys. And yes, the purpose comes first. And obviously you guys were together. It wasn't like just Daniel was there. You guys were together. But then it got to the point that you guys were like, this is great. But I believe Talitta say, hey, baby, we gotta go. We gotta go take care of our girls. And I love that because I told Gabe, I'm like, yes, all the success is important and things like that. But men tend to get very caught up on that. Yeah. So it's kind of like, so like he had an event about 4 weeks ago.
It's to 4
and then I was really sick at home. We got back from New York City and the event was on Thursday. We got back on Sunday and Tuesday I woke up like I was hit by a car. Yeah. Oh God, I was so sick. And then Thursday night, I'm like, I have fever of like 105, like no 105, 100.5. Like it wasn't good. He's like, I understand right now he wears a lot of hats. Yeah. So for the events, Gabe is the one who had to set things up, who have to do, who have to move, who have to talk to people. Like obviously I understand it's a lot. So I go and it's like 10:30. I'm very close to my family. And whatever happens to Camila, everyone feels it personal. Or like that's how we are with all of us. Yeah. So my mom is calling me at 10. She's like, at like 9, she's like, is Gabe still no home? And I'm like, nope, he's still no home. And then my sister the next day, she's like, Cami, is Gabe now still home? The next day she was like, you better tell, like she got so mad. The fact that Gabe came home at like 11 p.m. Yeah. And I'm putting myself like, pañito de agua fría. Like that's how sick I was.
Taking care of your fever.
Taking care of my fever. And then I go and I get
but it wasn't that bad. I thought she was going to say 2 a.m. or something.
No, but I got very mad because he left the whole day. Like he left, when he comes to the office, he leaves at 7 a.m. and he doesn't come home until later. And this week we were talking and I go like, yeah, babe, because he's like, Gay sometimes whenever he's like having those struggles, I'm like, go talk to somebody who's married and a coach and or your mentor, and we will talk later, baby. Bye. So anyways, I was telling Gabe, I was like, honestly, I think one thing, it was either you try to come home a little earlier and instead of staying networking for an hour, you could have been like, hey, my wife is sick at home, I gotta go. Or I was like, or you should have called at least my mom and say, hey, I have a very busy day today. I would love if you can come home, take care of Camila.
Because your mom is here.
Yeah, my mom is here. And my sister, bring her a soup. Here, I sell you, blah, 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 blah. Like, so I was like, I would have appreciated that. At least if you were not able to be there, because obviously you're wearing all these hats with the events. So like that was one thing I did want to ask you guys. Like, how will you guys handle?
Daniel, before you answer,
our
friendship could determine on this.
What would you have expected?
No, give your
from
honest
Daniel,
answer.
And what Daniel would have done.
We're always looking.
You go
for,
first.
For,
You go first.
We're always looking. I'm always looking for correction. I'm open.
Yeah.
The people that come to my events and my communities,
Because
they're listening to all the spill behind the.
I'm sure a lot
love
of women
this.
struggle with
Oh,
that. It's like
definitely.
you start the marriage.
Especially if they're with high quality men like Gabriel.
Exactly. So then you're like,
No, I really want to go first. It's very interesting. It's very
I want
interesting.
Cami to be my friend.
But wait, he's willing to learn. Are you willing to learn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good clarification.
I completely understand, and I could completely picture the scenario.
Oh yeah.
And I think
yeah.
that probably at some point.
And there's nothing wrong or right.
No. And I think at some point I actually probably felt the same way.
Of course.
Yeah, I think there was multiple
yeah.
times I felt the same way. Though, Karen, this is tough. I understood the man that I was with, like very, very, very well.
She talks a lot about this.
Very well, like I think a little too well. Like I took it too serious that he's a high value man. And my mentor told me, you need to be a little more bitchy. You're too sweet, So that's how well I took it, that he was a high value man and that I needed to put the vision, him, and the business and the things that we were developing and building before my own needs. So there was one time I can remember that we were on the go. Because I didn't want to stay home. I'd rather be in his presence than be at home. Not that I couldn't be home by myself. I could, totally fine.
But we love being together.
But I love being in his presence. And I learn from him. So when I'm with him, and so he's been developing himself personally way beyond me, like 10 years or 5 years before you met me. Yeah. So he knew a lot more. He always knows a lot more than I do. So I was like, I always want to learn from him. So one time I was throwing up nonstop. I was sick to my stomach. I was dizzy. I was nauseous.
Was this in Colombia?
No, this was here. Well, no, Colombia was another sacrifice.
Yeah, I'm thinking of hundreds of these times.
And I could have stayed home sick, like really, really sick.
This is going to be a really good one.
Yeah.
Viewers
really sick. But I decided to be in his presence. I'd rather be sick with him than be sick at home. So I told him, okay, I'll go with you. But I expected him, okay, look, she's really, really sick. I see her like going to the restroom every 5 minutes. Like, I need to take her home or something, take care of her. Dude, no, he kept going, meeting after meeting after meeting. There was one point I said, okay, I'm just gonna go sit in the car. I sat in the car and I'm like, is he ever gonna realize that I'm dying here in the car? And I'm like, and he's in a coffee shop doing a meeting and I'm sitting in a car dying. Literally, I felt like I was dying. And he comes out, he's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Like, I need something. And he's like, okay, we'll stop by and get you some Gatorade. And literally, that was it. That's all he got me, a Gatorade. And we kept going. And he's like, you want me to take you home? You want me to take you to your parents? No. I want to be with you and I don't feel well. But like my answer literally was like, okay, no, let's go home. You take care of me. Like I'm exhausted, tired, sick. But no, I believe so much in what he was sowing that I didn't expect him to take care of me. Because I know it was a sowing season in our life.
Exactly, it depends.
Yeah,
it was a sowing season. So I knew that season, he couldn't leave the crops. He had to nurture the crops. Thank you, baby.
Because I was gonna add that.
Go ahead.
No, but you finish.
It was his time to take care of the crops. And either I took care of myself or at home, and I could have stayed at home. Like, he didn't force me to go with him. Or he took care of the crops, or he took care of me. He couldn't take care of both. And if he left the crops that he was sowing, the birds could have eaten it.
Ooh.
And if the birds eat the crops, then we got nothing else for the next season. So I understood that season of life that we sow like no other. We sowed like no other. And sowed. And
So a little more.
And so,
good.
but you see how Daniel treats me today. He's the most chivalrous guy in the world. I don't demand him to be like un caballero. I don't ask him for a spotlight. I don't ask him for attention. But he always makes sure he gives it to me. It's so incredible what you will get, what you will reap when you sow. And for us women, sowing may be self-sacrificial. But you gotta be with the right man.
Yeah.
That's a controversial.
Jim Brown will always say,
Yes.
don't ask a farmer to go to the movies during the spring. It's a very short time. You gotta work your butt off during the spring. Do not ask the farmer to go to the movies. He's focused, working 24/7. So she understood the seasons of life.
I love that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it's so hard when you have family close too. Because family will also feed you into your energy of, okay, carajo, ¿dónde está él? Like,
Google
we
it,
are
Google
Sister got so mad. The next day, my mom
My
took
family
me to the
too.
doctor on Friday morning. She actually she came to pick
Yeah,
me
right?
up from Alpharetta
Yeah.
to Buckhead just to take me
This
to the
may
doctor.
be the first time in 6 years they've ever been mad at me.
Oh,
they
yeah.
always thought
They
I
were
was.
like, my sister was saying, y al menos te acompañó al doctor. She's like, did he show up to the doctor at least?
like something he did for you. Like, does he love you?
You know, Talitta and I were living together. We went out for 5 years. Next year, we're going to be married 10 years. Yeah, so it's almost 16 years
And we
together.
still haven't had a wedding. And we still haven't had a honeymoon.
Well, you guys have had a lot of honey.
Oh, yeah. That's coming. We have one every month.
Not officially.
I know, but you know.
It was a title honeymoon.
I know. But we do make sure to travel at least once a month with all the girls.
Yes.
By
love
ourselves.
that.
Man, there's a lot I want to go into
Yeah.
on this. So, first question for you.
Oh, wait, but I was going to finish.
First one, yeah.
So now my parents-in-laws, they understood what kind of man I am.
Yeah. Before
At
they
the
tell you,
beginning, it was
what is
crazy.
he- What's going on in this
Questionable,
guy's
Yeah, dude, like you throwing your life away, look at your behavior, look the way you work, you're not making any money. Now they realize what,
That's beautiful.
things that we have.
That's awesome.
That was great.
How do women measure when they have a fear of building up their men's ego and are worried that they may build them up to a point of leaving? In the sense of, this is one of the deeper questions I want to ask you guys, as far as being transparent. We're not unaware of the divorce rate. Of the people that stay together who aren't divorced, how many of them are actually happy? It's
Dude,
like comes down to literally
listen.
like 2 to 5% of marriages are actually
2, I would
thriving,
say
happy,
2.
I'm happy, yeah. I will say one.
So the question is, from a lot of times, even people in your position, I mean, the guy lost over 100 pounds in 18 months.
yeah, 2 years, 2-3 years.
Killing it health-wise, financially, great marriage, traveling, business, social media, all the things.
beautiful girls.
Beautiful family, girls, kids. But unfortunately, just an honest topic, a lot of times when men have that transformation, they start seeing money, it can go to their head, and then they can have an affair, leave, substitute for a trophy wife, all that kind of stuff. Fortunately, you already have that. So I think that's part of the answer that I would expect. That I would say is like, I could go in on that. I'll go in on it for a second, but like, I had to do very intentional work with evaluating who she was, and not just falling in love with who she was, but who she will be in 10 years. Who she will be in 20 years. And will the future versions of ourselves be compatible? Or are just our current versions are compatible? We had to talk about that, of what does that look like when I'm a millionaire? What does that look like when I'm speaking on stages? What does that look like when we're traveling all over the world? So we had those conversations, and it was very intentional, to the point where it was like, and it was challenging of like, what if I'm on this path, and then we don't What if I'm on this path and we're different people at that point.
Yeah.
But we knew we had those hard conversations that were compatible for each other, but our future versions are compatible too. And I know you guys when you guys didn't have success, and you guys were very passionate about each other then. And I'm not worried about you guys, but I want to hear from y'all's perspective. You guys are still very passionate, and like they say, money doesn't change us; it amplifies us.
Yeah.
So if anything, it's almost amplified y'all's love together. But speak into that on both sides of like, that's obviously a temptation that can come up, and a
For
challenge.
sure.
Yeah, what I'm about to say is so good. I need some coffee. So here's what we're gonna understand. Women will prove their loyalty during the process. And men will prove their loyalty during the wealth.
During the outcome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how can I let down
So good.
the woman that believed in me for over 10 years?
Come on.
You know, she's my queen. She's the most important thing of my life. But remember, I'm not part of the masses. You know? I'm not part of the masses. How can I let down the only person that believed in me when nobody else believed in me? Oh, she proved me? She was the right one during 10 years? Watch me prove her I'm the right one for the next 100 years in wealth and richness.
You gotta get crying. I felt that in my heart.
Does that make sense?
So it's real.
So that question, I will answer it. If you that are listening to us, if you're part of the masses, if you don't have the right mentality, then maybe I need to answer this question. If you develop the mentality and the mindset that Gabriel and I had, and we are developing, you don't need to know this because divorce is not part of our vocabulary. You know, we have a lifetime and eternity commitment because we found the person that we're gonna build everything with.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, but remember, 99% of the people, they don't have the values we have. They don't have the mentality we have.
Unfortunately.
You know what I'm saying? That's why we're creating this content.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can think the way we think. So you can see life the way we see life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for us, this is what I live for, to give her everything, you know? This is what I live for, to spend, I told her this morning, watch me, one of my short-term goals is to make sure she's wearing $1 million of jewelry on her every single day. You know what I'm saying?
I'm excited for that.
You can have, you know, $250,000 on your watch, another $500,000 on your bracelets, another maybe $100,000 on the ring. So I'm short, very short.
I already
like,
sent him the pictures.
yeah, do you know what I'm saying? Like now my whole thing is to how can I make her happy? How can I make her the most happy woman in the world?
Treat her as your queen.
And it's not just about the money and the goods financially, about the jewelry and things like that, but that makes us happy. I mean, and that's an asset. Women, that makes us happy, and it's an asset.
Yeah.
And if you're a woman watching this and you say, no, that doesn't make me happy, well, you need to do some internal work because we do love jewelry. And I would add...
Wealth.
I would add
Wealth
to
should
that.
make you happy.
Oh, 100%.
I will completely add to that for the woman side of this game is understand that during the process, you also gotta keep tight. Like a lot of women, they lose themselves because they don't understand the vision. They don't understand the purpose. They don't understand the process, the seasons of life. So a lot of women get lost in themselves. So se descuidan, like they stop taking care of themselves. They have kids, and then so now their life is about their kids. Now they're not focusing on their man and the vision. They're not focusing on themselves, on taking care and staying fit. I look better now than I looked than when I met him.
Yeah.
I have 6 packs now. I didn't have it then, you know? And so I've always been so intentional in being my best self, and that's what I teach women all over the world. That's why I do the workshops I do for women, so they can become their best self, so they can become of high value, so they can keep and attract a high value man. Because if you lose yourself as a woman in this process, and many do, they get frustrated because they don't have the right communication with their man. So from the get-go, they don't have the right vision of life. They have to fight for their spot. They have to fight for their attention. They have to fight for his love. Now, if you understand and you have clarity of the vision of the couple, of the marriage, of the relationship, you understand that you have to sow, that you have to sacrifice time, but that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice yourself. You got to take care of yourself. You have to be on your best self. I've always done personal development from day one. When he was reading the book at 6 a.m., I would open my eyes at 6:30. I would come with the cover over my head and sit next to him. And like, can you read to me? Because I can't read. Like, I really couldn't read. It was all blurry because I was still sleeping. But
We will read the same book for a whole year.
But I would sit next to him,
book.
and then he's listening to personal development, and I'm like, can you put that loud? And it was annoying as heck in the beginning. I was like, I can't understand what they're saying.
Annoying
They're just
voices.
talking. But then it started to sink in and sink in and sink in. So I kept developing myself with him throughout the process, so it was easy for me to understand the seasons.
A great word I got from what both of you guys shared is unconditional love for the woman. In the process is building up the man's confidence. Unconditional love from the man when he reaches the goal is humbling himself to honor her and to provide gifts and everything to her and treat her as a queen. Those are the two forms of
But
unconditional
women
love.
needs to understand that even though they get to wealth, they have to keep tight, like their
It's a daily
shape.
thing.
They have to enamorarlo, like they have to
Make him fall
never
in love
lose
every day.
the magic as women have, because men is only gonna recognize you when he's wealthy. Well, he's gonna see he has all these other options, and if you look like a bum,
Trust
why
me, a
would
lot
he
of
want
options.
Okay, I want to go into this next, which is the topic I wanted to talk about of sex.
You? I look at you.
10 years, you said, of being married?
Yeah, 9 years. Next in 2025 is gonna be 10
Next
years.
year.
You guys have kids, but you give the energy that you guys have great sex. We haven't talked about that.
We give the energy.
We do.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
So how if
I never thought about that. Now I'm gonna look a couple. What kind of energy they give me?
I don't really think about that often, but I just thought about it. Like,
But it makes sense.
No, but you can
But that
definitely
is
tell.
another
You can
indicator.
definitely tell.
That's another
100%.
qualifier, probably, of like,
Yeah.
how does this couple look as far as their sex? And
Do they know how to
energy?
dance? If they don't know how to dance, I don't do business with them.
She likes that one.
Then he,
She knows how to dance.
You take notes.
I'll teach you. I'll teach you.
I love it.
Oh, dude, she only made me when we married at a Starbucks. I was listening to an audio of Dexter Yeager. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's a good story.
Go.
Or maybe I can tell it later. Don't worry.
no,
Sure.
go for it.
I wanna-
Are you okay? Camila?
That's a good story.
Do you know who Dexter Yeager is?
I've heard, yeah.
In
Which business?
1961, he created what is known as an educational system in Amway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He created the modern network marketing and
training for-
educational system. I was listening to him. I was 22 years old. I was driving my Dutch Neon 1998.
Actually, it was my baby.
It was hers. And I stole it so I can build my business. And Dexter Yeager was saying he married when he was 22 years old. And I was 22 years old when I was listening to the audio. I go pick her up at her parents' house. And I said, get in the car, we're gonna go get married. I need to marry you today. I need to be married. So
like,
we go to
what?
the courthouse incoming.
I thought it was a joke.
And where's the judge? I need to marry today. Oh, he's out. Give me his phone number. I call him. I'm at a Starbucks on the road. Okay, stay there. I'll be there. We'll bring the papers, everything. He married us at Starbucks.
And he was like, do you guys want to say vows to each other? Do you guys want to like make it?
You're like, no.
we're like, I was like, well,
I
I don't
just
know
need
what
to marry
vows
her
are.
today.
So.
This guy told me I need to be married to become successful. I already knew she was going to be the love of my life.
Literally.
Does that make sense?
And
Like, I'm the kind of guy that I jump out of the plane and then I put the how do you say that?
Parachute.
The parachute on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, I'm telling you this. I don't even know why I'm telling you this. What are we talking about?
You'll remember, I was going to ask as far
Oh,
as
the sex
building
part.
you all up. and the
Oh, okay.
sex.
So she only asked me one thing when we married at Starbucks.
When he asked if I wanted to say the vows, I was like, I don't know what those are. But
And the vows were, I'm only gonna marry you
That's what
if
I
you
said.
take me out to dance at least once a month for the rest of our lives.
and I say, you don't need to worry about loving me. I can love myself, but you need to promise me that.
To take me out to dance once a month.
Dang.
And we've done so.
And he's done so.
And so would you
Every-
say that's a big
Every
contributor
month, every
to
month.
Yeah,
maintaining the sexual connection?
Definitely, 100%. Especially
Oh, yeah.
if you're Brazilian and you dance the way Talitta dances, there's no way not to have connection.
No, I was gonna say one thing. You both mentioned when Gabe asked the question as when you get to a certain point in your life, how when there's so many options out there, and I was thinking, and also on the sex part, I think when you're so aligned with your best version of yourself, it's hard not to bring those things to life, if that makes sense. Like
You have that
if
attraction.
if you look at yourself in the mirror and you feel so good and you know you're so aligned in the best version of you, that best version of you means so many things. It means that when your husband comes home, you're willing to give him all out, or like, you know, all these things. And because that's when I thought about it, I'm like, I started thinking when Gabe asked that question, I was like, honestly, the men who are able to give their, in my opinion, there's a whole debate, well, not debate, but I think of men who are successful nowadays, but then they divorce. So then I think about, okay, did they even marry the women they thought it was going to support that vision? So that's like a conversation for another time, right?
Yeah.
But then I was thinking of like, if you do so, and if you cheat on your wife or something like that, and when you marry that woman, you know she was, you looked into the future and you're like, okay, that's also the women I want to have right next to me on the best version of me.
Yeah.
And if you go and do something you're not supposed to do, then you're not operating on that best version of you.
Yeah.
You're operating more on the animal side of you, in my opinion. That's like, oh, now I got the money, now I got the opportunities, and now I'm shutting myself, this best version of me, to go pursue this hot chick somewhere, if that makes sense. So I'm like, for a successful man that's fully aligned with the best version of him, you can have full confidence as a woman that he will only continue to align to you. Because I feel that. I'm like, I told Gabe, for the person that asked me last week, she's like, how's marriage been? And I say, it's been amazing, because when I met Gabe, I joke about it and I say, I dated a little boy for a very long time. There's a lot he needed to work on. And when I got married, I was like, I feel like I finally came to like date a man.
Wow.
And I feel like that best version of him has only gotten me more attracted to him, if that makes sense.
And it just
so
gets
like,
more and more
I can have
attractive.
100 opportunities if I want, but I'm like, the best version of me is only more aligned to Gabe, if that makes sense. So like, yes, at times you do question things. There's times when we were dating, obviously it hasn't been perfect, where I was like, God, you told me that he's gonna look like this, but he still hasn't looked like that. You told me that he's gonna be like a 10, but he's still at a 6.
Yeah.
So what are we gonna do in this case? And only like marriage to us has aligned that more. Like I looked at him when he asked the question about before, when we were dating, like fully transparency. I used to struggle like giving him that recognition, like admiring him, if that makes sense. I was so afraid of giving that to him because I didn't want his ego to like go to the roof. And then I'm like, okay, if I give that to you and your ego go to the roof, there's still like, we're still boyfriend and girlfriend, or who knows what's gonna happen. So and that's something I probably would recommend to a lot of women. I preserve that for myself. I'm like, you're not gonna get this until we're married. There is a lot of things that Gay got.
You mean what? By this?
Like the admiration and the recognition.
The admiration was there, but maybe to the point that I feel now that he's my husband. Like I looked at him, I'm like, baby, you're so hot. That I did that before, but I'm saying like, I do it a lot more now.
Not at the level that you do it now.
Not at the level that now you're my husband. And not like the security, because women need security. So like, I feel like for me, when I got married, you reach another level. You don't reach like, I don't think I sit with myself and be like, well, Gabe is never going to leave me. That's not what I think.
No, yes.
It's just like marriage, when you decide to become one, you really do become one.
Yeah.
Like you really do. So like
It's a
for me,
manifestation,
it's like,
energy.
like when I talk to him, when I affirm him, when I tell him, babe, we got this, like we're continuing to go through this, like all these things, it's almost like, how can I know when we're one and we're building together, if that makes sense? So I was thinking about that because I'm like, there's no way you can cheat. There's no way you can consider other opportunities if you are really performing at your highest self.
100%.
You can.
Exactly.
And if you are, it's because you're at this frequency of like, what else is out there?
And it's very important who you hang out with. That's why we started this
so
about
important.
appreciating friendship. Because we've broken a business relationship because of that.
They don't have the same principles that we have. And I'm talking about serious business relationships.
Like a lot of money. A lot of money. we have people get comfortable in the appearance and what a relationship can bring, so they overpass their own principles and morals, and they get caught up in moments or environments where men could cheat.
Yeah.
But
So you don't want to be in those environments.
No.
So, and when you are aligned and you're in the same energy, so you can really measure a quality of a man also by his self-control. 100%. If a man is still with a sex desire or just to do anything that moves, he's not really a man. Mm-hmm. He's not practicing one of the most important qualities that a man has, that is self-control. Mm. Once you achieve that self-control, it's beautiful. You control your life, you control your thoughts, you control the outcome, you control the results.
You control what you eat.
Exactly.
The other day.
I can go deep into this. Starts with what you eat, with everything. So, and you're so aligned with your woman. Like, I was at the gym the other day, and maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I really believe she's the hottest girl in the gym.
I think it is true.
And I'm like, I was like, baby, like, are you looking at your body? Like, what the crap? Like, what are you doing? What are you eating? Does that make sense? Like, I'm genuinely in love with her every single day more and more. Because she's earning that, and it's our energy, it's our mastermind, it's our union, it's our alignment. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when a man gets to a certain financial level and he's still having those issues, he's not a man, he's a boy. And he still hasn't developed the mindset that it really takes to be a high quality man.
100%.
Maybe the last topic.
We can in the next episode, we can go into depth how to become that man.
Yes, amen. Last thing I want to talk about, power and art of edification, and how you guys build each other up and edify each other. A lot of people don't understand the power of edification in general, but specifically in a marriage. And then also Napoleon Hill, as I know you guys are fans of as well, he talks about the most important mastermind that we can have is between a husband and a wife. So talk about mastermind and then the power of edification to contribute to the mastermind.
So, I've been studying Napoleon Hill now for 15 years, and the laws of success, like very few people have in this world. Probably maybe you. I've studied it the way I've studied it. Matter of fact, I worked with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. I've had lunch with Napoleon Hill's grandson. So I'm very, I take it very seriously, the job that he did for 25 years of interviewing all these people to really find the principles of success. So when I read that the most important mastermind is between a man and his wife, is between a husband and his wife, I really took that serious. So serious that every single day we mastermind. Every single day we mastermind.
What's that look like?
First of all, you need to drink coffee.
I do every morning. So I wake up, I make my coffee, and I'm sitting on our couch, and I'm like, baby, where's your coffee? So sad.
Remember, it's not for the energy; it's for the cultural experience, for the, So we
need to make this home more Colombian.
For some reason, every time we talk, we gotta be drinking, right? Some coffee or some.
And you used to never drink coffee before.
No, I used to never like coffee. Yeah. But no, we have a cup of coffee, black, straight, no sugar, no nothing in the morning. We ask ourselves questions. How can I make you happier? How can she make me happier? How can she help me achieve my goals and dreams? What can we improve? That's the first one. Then the babysitter gets home.
Oh, and we ask ourselves, anything changed on the agenda, because we used to have a little conflicts with agenda changing and not knowing and things like that. So anything changed what we had for the week?
Yeah, we talk.
Yeah.
Can you believe most couples don't even talk?
We talk a lot.
We talk. We're great friends. It's great meeting.
Well, you talk a lot, and you guys do everything together.
Yeah.
I see you guys on calls. I see you at the gym.
Yeah.
I see you guys eating.
Yeah.
Because we enjoy each other.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? So early afternoon, the babysitter gets home, and we go to the gym together. So we talk at the gym, and we keep masterminding, and we keep connecting, and we keep asking ourselves questions. How can we improve? How can we be better? How can we grow? How can we evolve? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not like we close our eyes and mastermind.
Or it's not like I tell you what to do, because a lot of women don't want to tell their men what to do.
You know what I'm saying? It's just talking.
Talk, yeah.
It's just connecting.
Yeah.
Because outside of my unconsciousness, so I don't want to get into auto-suggestion, but outside of my own voice, the most powerful voice in my conscious and subconscious mind is my wife's voice.
Yeah.
She's the one that can affect my conscious thoughts more than anybody else in the world outside of me. Does that make sense? So she needs to have the right thinking so she can affect my thinking. So
Always the positive faith.
exactly, that's how we apply that mastermind principles in Think and Grow Rich and the Laws of Success. And that's why we have developed the environments that we develop. We do a couples retreat every single year. She do women's call every 2 weeks. I do a masculinity call every day because I want the world to understand that this is the most important thing, your marriage. That will determine your success in life, the quality of that relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Amazing.
How do you feel about that, baby?
100% on point.
So edification, we do it naturally. It's part of our life.
I think when you're good and I think when your heart is pure, it's an automatic.
Yeah.
You wanna resaltar, you wanna like
Highlight.
you wanna highlight how baby.
Dude, English is my first language now. I'm not gonna do any more Spanish podcasts. I'm only gonna do English podcasts.
I really love that what you say there. When I see you guys, I feel like, and I'm sure Gabe can agree, it's like there's so much intentionality, if that makes sense. Like everything is intentional and we can see that. And that's probably part of like kind of what you were saying. It's like, yeah, you see your husband and everything is so intentional that like, how can you not say that? Oh, babe, you look amazing. It's not like, well, I see you every day. You look amazing another day of the week. Like you shouldn't look at it like that. And I really like love that because I feel like for us, and that's something I've been trying to work on. It's like, sometimes you get so caught up in life and they go, 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 go. And it's like, take a minute just to like look at your husband in the eyes and tell him like he looks amazing.
Yeah.
And I think I see that. It's like for you guys, like, yeah, you can be on the go. I'm sure you guys are getting ready for a trip and then another trip and then another trip.
Trust us.
But like, it's still like you're living on that
Yeah, we tell you about-
intentionality. And I think once you master that, which I was telling Gabe that when I met you guys, you guys, or like the day after, I was like, because there is a lot of people talking personal development out there. A lot. Like kind of what you were saying. There's a lot of people doing podcasts. There's a lot of people doing videos. And like, I support that and all of that. But I love when you get to meet someone that's living it and growing. Like living it. They don't only just talk about personal development.
This is our life.
But you can see that intentionality comes within, if that makes sense. And when you bring that to the table, that's where like really sets you apart.
Thank you for saying that.
So that's great. And I think we can both see that, and I think that's beautiful.
And I think that the principle that we apply that makes it so natural is gratitude. We're always thanking God for something. Every time we feel tense, like, okay, today we're here. We're leaving tomorrow for a whole month for the first time in our life.
We're going to 5 different cities in 4 different countries in 4 weeks. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
Starting.
So it's usually tough to get ready for one trip, but we're getting ready for 5 trips.
In one.
For women.
You're
like, what are the outfits?
6 bags, please. It's crazy. And so today we ended up having to align 100 things that didn't come through earlier in the week that we planned. So, people look at successful people and say, oh, their life is perfect. They have everything.
It is.
It is kind of perfect, but there's a whole lot of responsibilities, Sure. But
what's perfect is our attitude.
We apply gratitude, and our attitude is a reflection of that.
So the only thing that we control is our attitude, our state, what we're thinking, what we're focusing on, and we're very good at that. And another principle that we practice a lot when it comes to edification is this. Everything good that we see, we say it out loud.
God, yeah.
I love that.
And we're very intentional. If I see something good about her,
I'm so
I
good
will
at
yell
that.
it. I will yell that thing out to the world. Whether we are by ourselves or whether there's people around us. How many times do we compliment each other every single day?
A whole lot. And other people too.
Yeah.
We were at the airport and I gave like 4 different compliments, but it was so automatic. And
I was
then
like, baby, you need to slow it down on the compliments.
but it was so genuine. Like the
So
first
but it's a habit. It's something we do every day.
It comes
If
out
I
of
see
you.
something good, I say
so
it.
natural. Most people don't even compliment a smile. They get a smile and they're like, what the heck was that? Why is she smiling at me? Like, people are freaked out about a smile.
And if we see something bad, we write it down in the sand so the next waves can erase it.
Yeah, we don't go there.
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You should read that book.
Yeah, I was telling Gabe that too the other day. We were leaving here at the office, and like, I'm the type of person that I'm like, see the lady that does the cleaning, I'm like, hasta luego. Buenas noches.
Yeah, no, that's normal for us.
And I see the guy downstairs, the guy on the reception, I'm like, have a great night, and like these things. And I sat in my car when I got there because that was one thing that really, it was really hard for me when I moved from Colombia to America. Because Americans, no offense, but they're like this. They're just like going like that. Like when I went to New York City, I'm like,
oh no, that's the
in
worst.
the head.
Yeah, New York City,
I'm like,
they will insult you in your face.
yeah, no, and they're like, you ask them like, hey, where is the best pizza? They're like, I'm like, I'm gonna look like an alien or something.
Yeah, no, it's
so I was
crazy
telling
over there.
Gabe that I really love that because Gabe gets a lot in the conversation of like, it's not a culture thing at times. Yes, it is, but it's a wholeness conversation.
Wait until he goes to Colombia.
Yeah, I agree.
Dude, everybody will smile at you.
Yeah, they're like,
Everybody will say good morning to you. It's a whole,
100%.
yeah, it's just, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a cultural
it
thing.
could be a
But one of
culture.
the things why, I'm so sorry to
No, you're
interrupt you,
fine.
go ahead.
No, Gabe, like, there's some things I sound like, you don't understand. Like, I'm always late. And I always tell him,
Wow, another thing coming.
I always say, Gabe, I'm like, babe, it's a culture thing. You don't understand. This is a Latinos issue. And he's like, that's an excuse. You don't respect people times that's why you're late. I'm like, so anyways, what I was trying to say, yeah.
No, she's got, yeah, she's
getting
we
better.
used to be, yeah. Now
We
she's-
learned a lesson from How to Win Friends.
Yeah.
I showed up 5 minutes late, and he said, "Meet me tomorrow."
You read the same book.
And Gabe was
You read
saying,
the
like,
same book.
sometimes he tells me, like, hey, babe, it's not necessarily a culture thing. It's like a wholeness conversation.
Yeah.
And I guess what I mean by wholeness is kind of what you're saying. Like, when you feel good with yourself, when you feel like you give a lot of compliments and you're okay telling the other women, hey, you look amazing today. And those are some of the things that day I sat in my car, I'm like, we forget those little things. But when you live, because I always tell Gabe, I'm like, yes, I will love the money. Yes, I will love the nice things, but intentional life, I just love that so much.
Yeah.
I'm like, where you get to wake up every morning and be so grateful, even if you have zero money on your bank account. Like,
That's
and when you
happiness.
live that, it's like, really, that's what brings you happiness. So like what you were saying, I really like, it's like, you go to the airport, you're like, you look amazing, you look amazing.
And just one last thing I think people can get a lot from. Did you guys have this attitude of gratitude, expressing compliments before the success?
Of course.
Oh, always.
You have to.
So you-
There is no way you can get success without this attitude. Because remember, success is not only about money. You can have money and be miserable.
Because a lot of people
But
will
success
think it's
not
easy
just
for you
money.
guys
Yeah, when-
because you have this life, you're traveling, you do these things.
Right, you're
but
happy
how
people.
much did it shift, if at all? Or was it basically the same?
No, it's basically the same.
Yeah.
I believe you're not gonna be happy when you get wealthy. You gotta be happy to be wealthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're waiting for you to be wealthy so you can have the right attitude, you're never gonna get there. You gotta have the right attitude, then you're gonna get wealthy. You gotta be it before you have it.
Right.
So we always had it.
Always had it.
Always had it.
I love that.
Because remember, happiness, money is very important. It's, it's right there next to oxygen. But the happiness is not gonna come with the money.
Comes first.
You know what I'm saying? It comes with a certain mindset that you have to develop to use that infinite power that God gave you of controlling your thoughts. That we can go into 4
Oh
hours
my
talking
God,
about
there's
this.
so many good stuff here.
But we've had that for the past 13, 14 years.
I mean, there's some rude people that are very successful, but we're talking about
But what do you mean?
completeness.
Yeah, when
Exactly,
we say
right.
successful, we
Yeah.
talk about integral. ¿Cómo se dice?
Integral?
Just like full success.
Integral.
When somebody
Is
only
that a
has
word?
money, that's not successful to me.
I like
Yeah,
to talk
same.
about the difference between the worldly riches and spiritual wealth and abundance.
Yeah.
There's a difference of that inner wholeness, and then the abundance is an outflow of it. But yeah.
Yeah, so when we talk about somebody successful, we're talking about somebody that is successful in every area of their life.
For sure.
Not just making money.
Yeah.
Successful
There's a lot of
spiritually
people
first.
with money out there, but
They're-
there's not a lot
And
of
they're broken.
successful people.
They're broken inside, or their relationship is not good with their spouse, or their home, something is malfunctioning, or somewhere in their life is not congruent.
Yeah, worldly riches without internal fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
Yeah.
If we're not obedient to God first and aligning our internal truth and calling and dreams with our external behaviors and actions, and we're out of alignment to that, that's where we're going to feel empty and not feel true success and happiness. So love it. Agree. We'll see where we put this, whether it's podcasts, Spotify,
Dude, of course.
YouTube.
I think this whole thing needs to go out.
We'll put
Yeah.
clips up.
It's been
Let
a
us know
pleasure.
if
Yeah.
you guys want to see version part 2.
Let us know, let us
'Cause
know.
we could talk about a whole bunch of topics. So if you guys like this, let us know.
Yeah.
We'll go deeper into sex, relationships, healing, building up the men, feminine, masculine, energy,
Yes.
purpose,
So much.
masculine, edification. There's a whole bunch to talk
And
about.
remember, the success of this podcast is not because you and I, it's because Camila and Talitta.
Amen.
Right? So all these likes is going to be because of them.
They don't want to see us. They want to see them. Thanks,
It's
guys,
been
for
a pleasure.
coming.
No, man, thank
guys
you,
are
bro.
awesome.
Thank you so much.